Growing up, I was taught that, I could do anything. And I didn't know that sexism or any kind of women hating was ever, in play, even though my dad was like a very traditional guy. When I would go on dates, the guy would call the house and he'd be like, hello, I'd be standing next to my father. Hey, is Kelly there? No, I'm sorry, she's not. Do you know where she is? Of course I know where she is. I'm her father. Don't ever call her again. So, but I was told that I could do whatever I want, and no one in my family had ever gone to college. And so by the time I was in, I don't know, maybe I was like 10 or 11, I decided I wanted to be an umpire because there were a lot of cute boys. I could hang out in the park and I could get tan and get paid. And that was one of my first businesses. I had a snow shoveling company at the age of 8. I had 4 employees, but 2 were my brother and sister, and they were not good. But I made a lot of money and I didn't have to shovel. I just took the percentage off the back of the other kids who were shoveling. And from there I became an umpire. And it's when I became an umpire that I found out that a lot of times women are the meanest to other women. And so when I would go out to judge and umpire and ump a game, it would be the mothers who would start screaming that there was a girl on the field. And at that time there was not integrated sports. And my mom, who was like 5'1", would come and yell at the other mothers, "Don't you dare talk to her like that." Right around that time, I was about to be suspended for school for refusing to say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. And they were like, I pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic for which it stands. I was like, I don't even know what this means. I'm not standing up and agreeing to this. And that was not such a good idea because I ended up in the principal's office and they said, we're going to suspend your daughter because she refuses to say the Pledge of Allegiance. And I said, Mom, I don't even know what this means, and I'm not down with it. I'm confused, and if somebody can explain what this means, then I'll say it, but I don't really know what it means. And my mother goes, I will take you to the Supreme Court if you do not let my daughter go to school. And I was like, not bad for someone who graduated 12th grade. My threats really came from watching my mom, who was about 5 foot, 94 pounds, she would threaten the McDonald's drive-through window. She would be like, we are not getting good service. It's like the McDonald's drive-through window. My mom would attack them. So I learned a lot from watching my mom bust some moves. So by the time it was time for me to go to college, I decided I wanted to major in poetry and that I wanted to go to the University of Oahu. And that was squashed by my mom, who said, that's ridiculous. You are going to go and you are going to get a skill. Because no one in this family has ever gone to college and you are going to get a skill in something that you can use. You're going to be a nurse. I was like, oh no, I don't really like sick people. I don't want to be around pain at all. I personally, this is not for me. She goes, oh yes. You're going to go, it's going to be great. And it's going to be a great career. You're going to be able to travel. You'll be able to make $40,000 a year. This will be amazing. So they applied to the colleges for me, and I get accepted to a school called Hartwick College, which was fucking hysterical because it was in the preppy handbook. So at that time, I was really into the Clash and Adamant, and all the kids who went there were really rich and really waspy, and I had an asymmetrical Dorothy Hamill haircut with a long braid, and everybody at the school was named I don't even know, Buffy and Poppy and Pippa and Lulu, and I was wearing all black and I was just like, I'm so fucked, I'm never gonna make it here. And my mother was so proud, and she was crying and she couldn't believe it, and I was the first person in our family to go to college, and I ended up in the nursing school, which was full of fat farm girls and 3 instructors who hadn't had sex in 50 years and probably were just kicked out of the convent, so this is the only job they could get. And they kind of singled me out from the beginning. My first day of nursing school, I had on white clogs. I couldn't wait to wear those oversized white shirts with baggy pants and the white clogs and pretend I was a doctor. And I would walk around the town pretending I was a doctor. Because it was so boring being in nursing school. And when you first get to nursing school, they give you They give you somebody who's about to die, basically, because they have everything wrong with them. So they have like diabetes, they're blind, they have glaucoma, high blood pressure, bed sores, a catheter, a stoma bag, heart problems, COPD, and I don't know, maybe fluid on the brain. And you're supposed to stay up all night long and look up all the different diseases and how they relate to each other and make your treatment for the next day. So the first day I get to nursing school, I have this client named, or patient, I guess I like to call them clients because they're very similar to PR people, my clients now, and joke. And so I went in, and the guy's name was Donald, and he was in the bed, and he had all these tubes, and he had a tube in his penis and a bag of I don't know what coming out of it, and I was just like, oh God, this is not for me. And he's like, oh. And I just grabbed the chart and I just started writing down. I'm like, well, his blood pressure is probably like 120 over 80. I don't want to get near this guy. He's going to kill me. And he started doing this thing called picking at air, which, just so you know, if you see somebody who's really sick do that, that's kind of a sign that they're probably going to die. And I knew that because I had gone to nursing school for about 3 weeks, and I was like, oh no. And I went out and I went to the nurse's station, and I'm like, it smells like coffee. That's another sign that someone's going to die. It smells like coffee. And it smells like coffee, and he's picking at air. And the nurses came in, and they were like, oh, okay. And, he died. And I was like, oh no, it's like my first patient is dead. This is a sign. I'm not meant to be a nurse. This is just really, 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 really bad. And I went to a payphone, and I called my mom, and I started crying. I said, listen, this is not for me, okay? My patient's dead. My first day, the guy is dead, Mom. And she's like, oh, well, that's just because you have to deal with sick people. That's part of being a nurse. Oh my God. She's like, you're going to stay in that school and you're going to get that degree. So I was like, oh God, I'm going to become a psychiatric nurse. So quickly, I moved over to find a job where there were no bedpans, There were just a bunch of kooky, crazy people who were having nervous breakdowns, and I ended up working ICU psych, which was a great place for me to be. And on my first day at work, because you have to know your limitations, there's no point in trying to get yourself to tolerate and work with something that you can't deal with. If you're not into pain and illness, a hospital is not a good place to be. If you want to work in entertainment, psychiatric nursing is a great first step. So I worked ICU psych, and on my first day, my patient came up to me. He was my favorite patient. His name was Miles, and he was a bipolar, and so that meant he was up all night, and he would sing naked, "Oh, when the Saints Go Marching In," which I thought was kind of fun, because he was cute. It was a nice way to spend, 2 o'clock in the morning watching him sing, "Oh, when the Saints Go Marching In." And the first day, he said to me when I was at work, "What are you doing here? You're a hairdresser, you're not a nurse." And I said, I know, that's how I feel. I feel a lot more like a hairdresser than a nurse, but we're both here and we're going to have to make the best of it, Miles.